Hi interns, and welcome to day 13 of our online lessons. Today we're going to take a little break from our book today, and we are going to be working on the Paychecks and Pay Stubs packet that you guys have in your folder. So you're going to need that today. Also, if you have a calculator, either by hand or you can always use the one on your phone too. So calculator, either your phone or just a regular calculator. Also, your Understanding Paychecks packet there. And also a pen or pencil to complete some of the questions that we're going to answer in today's activity. So I checked in with a lot of parents today, a lot of you guys personally, got to speak with you. As I start planning our April lessons, I'm really hoping that a lot of us have that internet access and access to those laptops, which I'm calling about. So hopefully moving into April, we can do a little bit more interactive lessons with each other online, and I'll of course be in touch with more of that. Don't forget, next week, April 6th to the 10th, is Charleston County's spring break. So I will not be posting any activities next week. So again, if you want to keep working on some different things, I highly recommend these extended extra activities here, which I went over yesterday in my video. So feel free to do those. All right. And of course, do not forget your daily reminder to complete that employability skills log with all those things that you are using that we learned at the hotel that you're using now at your house, hopefully. My house, to be honest, has never been so clean. I've had so much time to do a lot of those things, so hopefully you're helping out as well around the house. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with today's lesson. I'll go ahead and let you guys know it's a good lesson that when we've already gone over paychecks and pay stubs and gross pay and all those different things on those pay stubs when you do get a job and do get your check. But it can be a little confusing, so we're going to take it nice and slow today. It's going to be a little heavier of a lesson, like I mentioned in my previous video. So just take your time. Definitely pause if you need to pause and look at anything. But I'm really going to give you a big help today with a lot of the answers and how to find those answers. So helping you out as much as I can. And I will go over the answers so you can check that in my next lesson on day 14. Okay? So let's go ahead and get started with our packets. Making sure you have everything you need today, calculator, packet, and pen. And on the first page, it has a table of contents, and this just tells you what we'll be doing, talking about, we're going to calculate gross pay and talk about what that is. We're going to look at paycheck deductions, a couple of examples of different pay stubs here, and then you guys are going to be completing this practice worksheet on finding that information on that pay stub like we've done before in the training room. I left out the final assessment in your packet, so if you don't have that, don't worry. I left that out along with that answer key. So you don't have these things in your packet, just to clarify that. All right, let's go ahead. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read the sections of articles written here. This one first is calculating gross pay. As you can see here, I have highlighted some different information, and I'll prompt you to either underline. If you have a highlighter, that's great, but you just can always underline this information as well. I did that so I can point out where those answers are in our next page, just asking you different questions about this information. So I'm going to go ahead and start reading here under calculating gross pay. The road to independence and adulthood often begins with finding financial freedom. Many young adults find that having a job prepares them with the opportunity to earn a disposable income. What's a disposable income? A disposable income is the amount of money after taxes that has been taken out from your paycheck that you, a person, can save or spend as they wish. That's what disposable income is, that extra money we have to buy things, not really necessities, but things like that we want or want to save for. Second paragraph here. Most young adult workers are paid through an hourly wage. So when we're looking to get jobs for you guys, most likely you'll have a job where you have an hourly pay rate and you get paid a certain amount per hour that you work. So an hourly wage is a specific rate of money, an amount of money you are paid per hour, worked that is paid by the employer. The amount of worker wages vary, that means they can be different, based on the employer, as well as the worker's experience and skill level. Wages are commonly paid by the hour, by the day, or by the job. An example of being paid by the job is like a landscape worker who is paid only after the landscape project is completed, regardless of the hours that are worked. So there's lots of different ways to get paid. Most likely you will have an hourly rate. And it also just wants to mention being paid by the project you complete, because like landscapers who go out and work in people's yards, they're actually paid for each job they do. So that's different. Moving on to the third paragraph here. A benefit that hourly workers often enjoy is overtime. Overtime is work beyond your regular hours. The Fair Labor Standards Act established that overtime pay it is not less than 1.5 times the regular rate of pay and is required for any hours worked over 40 per week. So if you are a full-time employee, that means that you are working between 30 and 40 hours. Now, federal regulations say that if you work over 40 hours, which if you're really doing a good job and your employer needs you to, that may be the case. Well, if you work overtime, you actually get paid more money per hour for that overtime labor, and we'll talk more about that. Some employees are paid by salary instead of hourly wages. A salary is a fixed amount, so one amount of money paid to an employee to do a job. Salary workers do not receive overtime pay. So if you do have a salary position or a job where you're paid by a salary, that means that overtime work, working more than 40 hours a week, you wouldn't get paid more for if you work for a salary. Many salary employers work more than a typical 40-hour week. A benefit of receiving a salary is that the employee does receive the same amount in their paycheck each week. So they can go ahead and count on, this is the same amount I'm going to get for my work each week. Instead of an hourly employee, they only get paid for the amount of hours that they work. So for example, I'm a teacher, and Charleston County teachers, we are paid on a salary. So that means I get paid the same amount whether I work 40 hours or 60 hours a week. So there's positives and negatives about that, and we'll go into that when we're answering our questions here on the next page. Most salaries are stated as annual, that means yearly, amount such as $32,000 per year. Employers divide the yearly amount by the number of pay periods. A pay period is the number of days an employer works and is paid for each paycheck. Typically, that's every 2 weeks. A pay day, however, is the day that you receive the check, that the pay stub is given to you. Pay periods vary or are different depending on the employer. The four most common types of pay periods are as follows. Some employers pay weekly, and those workers are paid once a week with 52 pay periods a year, because there's 52 weeks in a year. Some are paid bi-weekly. That means workers are paid every 2 weeks with 26 pay periods a year. Some are paid semi-monthly. That means workers are paid twice per month with 24 pay periods per year. And some are only paid monthly. That means workers are paid once per month with 12 periods in a year because there are 12 months. So there's different negatives and positives about each of those different pay periods that a worker may provide to you. That would be a good question to ask your employer how they're paying you weekly, every 2 weeks, or monthly. So you'll know. Obviously, if you're getting paid monthly, that's a bigger check, but you have to budget that large amount of money better than if you were paid every 2 weeks, which are smaller checks, but that are given to you more often. So let's go down here, the end of page 1, where it says gross pay, and talk about gross pay. Gross pay is the amount of money earned before any deductions, and those are taxes typically, are subtracted, are taken out of your paycheck, and can be calculated using a person's hourly wage amount or salary amount, the hours they worked, and pay period. The examples on the next page explain how to calculate gross pay. It has 3 examples for us here on page 2. And this might be a lot of information, and you're like, oh, my brain's hurting. It's like a little overload, and that's okay. So I'm going to break it down for you a little bit here. So for our example 1, we have Olivia, oops, sorry, my Siri went off for some reason. Okay, so we have Olivia here who works at an auto parts store, right here at number 1, and makes $8 an hour. Last week, she worked 40 regular hours and then 2 hours of overtime. Her gross pay is calculated like this. So, how much is she working per hour? $8. Well, remember, overtime has to be at least that amount and a half, so that's 1.5. So her overtime is $12 an hour. So that's how you would calculate that overtime. So her regular hours are 40 with $8 an hour. And then she remembers she worked over 40 and worked $2 and worked for 2 extra hours. And that she got paid $12. So you add those amounts and then you calculate Olivia's gross pay of $344 for the week. All right, let's move here on to example 2. Terry works as an accountant at an accountant and makes $46,000 a year. Whoa, that's pretty good. He is paid semi-monthly. Last week, he worked 40 regular hours and 6 overtime hours. So we're going to calculate his gross pay based on the salary. So he's getting paid $46,000 a year, and he's paid twice a month. So we are gonna, there's 12 months, and we multiply that by 2. That's 24 payments. So his gross income, each check is going to show $1,916.67 each paycheck. Okay, and this talks about how the 12 months. How it's 2 paychecks per month. Okay? I'm kind of flying through this because I know it can get a little confusing, and some of us salary isn't going to be something that how we're going to get paid for a while. So I really want you guys to pay attention to those hourly wages, and that's really what we're going to focus on today too. And then we have an example 3 here. We have Chris works at a fast food restaurant and makes $8.15 an hour and is eligible for overtime pay. Last week, he worked a total of 51 hours. Okay, so Chris's 51 hours is regular 40 hours and 11 overtime. So to calculate his overtime, we're going to take his regular pay and we're going to multiply that by time and a half. And we're going to get what he makes as an overtime hourly, which is $12.23. So when we multiply that overtime pay rate by how many hours he worked, 11, we're going to get 143. And then his regular hours, which he gets paid $8.15, we're going to multiply that 40 hours. Then we're going to add those two. Okay? I know that was a lot of information, but stay with me. I promise I'm going to make it easy for you. Here we go. First, here on page 3, what they're doing is they're asking you about different questions about the reading. So I highlighted some of the answers here. So I'm actually going to have this up on my clipboard as I also show you some of the terms and things that I highlighted. So let me see if I can pull it down a little bit here. Okay. All right. So, sorry. Thank you for your patience. Okay. So here we are on answering questions about paycheck deductions. So we are going to refer back to the text and answer questions and answer them completely. So number 1, our question is, how do deductions affect the amount of the paycheck? So, oops, hold on 1 second. I think I'm actually on the wrong one. Oh, you guys are so patient with me. Okay. My apologies. We're going to answer the questions here on calculating gross pay. So, I incorrectly prepared myself. That's okay. I got it. So we're on page 3. So join me there with your pen or pencil. I'm going to point out where those answers are in those texts. Okay. We're ready. So, calculating gross pay. So number 1 asks you the question, explain the difference between hourly wage and a salary that we just talked about. So, if you look back here on your text, I've highlighted the answers that you can fill in for each of these, and I put a little number for which number it refers to. So here with number 1, you can write your answer here. The hourly wage is a specific rate of money per hour. And salary, here's my other number 1, so follow the number 1s for the answer to number 1. And a salary is a fixed amount of money paid to an employee. So whether you want to underline that, however you want to do that, if you want to pause here, but this is your answer to number 1. Right here, you can write this exactly as it's worded. The hourly wage is a specific rate to the money per hour, and then a salary is a fixed amount of money paid to an employee. And that is your answer for number 1 there. Okay. So pause that if you need to write in that answer. And we're going to move on to number 2. What is the amount of a worker's wages based on? So how do we find that? What are those wages based on? So right here, the answer's right by my number 2. So a worker's wages are based on the employer as well as the worker's experience and skill levels. So please write that down as your answer. What I've highlighted here is your answer for number 2. Based on the employer as well as the worker's experience and skill level. Just giving you the answers because I know it's so hard, especially doing this over a YouTube video. So number 3, what is the difference between a pay period and a pay day? So here we go. Number 3. Let me find my number 3. Here we go. Right down here. Your answer to number 3 is, and you can just write it as is, a pay period is the number of days an employer works and is paid. A pay day is the day, sorry, I'm reading it upside down, a person is paid. Okay? So you can just start here for your number 3 response and write exactly what I've highlighted. Don't worry about writing things I haven't highlighted. Just write what I've highlighted here for your answer for number 3. Written right there. Okay? And pause, because I know I'm going a little quickly today. Number 4, name one positive, so one good thing and one negative, one not so good thing, one bad thing, feature about being paid a salary. So it's one good thing about a salary and one not so good thing about being paid as a salary. So here we go back to the text for number 4's response. Let me find my number 4. Here we go. So this is the negative. So one negative is they do not receive overtime pay. So see here how I wrote number 4 negative. They do not receive overtime pay. And right here, one positive is that they receive the same amount each paycheck. So that is your full answer for number 4. One negative is do not receive overtime. One positive is they receive the same amount. Okay, so you can just put that right in here for your answer for number 4. All right, number 5. What rule about overtime does the Fair Labor Standards Act establish? So let me find that real quick. All right, here we go. Number 5, our answer to number 5 right here. So you don't have to write this because it already says it in the question, but overtime pay at a rate not less than 1 1/2 times the regular rate of pay and is required for hours worked over 40 hours per week. So you can just write that exactly as that is, that I've highlighted here, as your answer for number 5. And again, if it helps you to underline it or pause to copy that information down on those responses, feel free to do so. That's your answer for number 5. Okay. So next we get into some matching here with the different pay periods. So match the terms. So we're looking for which one's weekly, bi-weekly, semi-monthly, and monthly, and which one matches. The different intervals here of 2 weeks every 26, once per month, twice a month, and once per week. So what you're going to look at to match those correctly here, you're going to put the letter that each one of these refers to here in the answer key. You're going to look at this right here. So weekly. So you know weekly is work that is paid once per week with 52 pay periods. Okay, so find the answer there. Bi-weekly, your work and being paid every 2 weeks with 26 per pay period. Semi-monthly, you're paid twice a month with 24 pay periods. paydays. And monthly, your work is paid once per month with 12, because there's 12 months in a year, 12 pay periods. Okay, so you're matching those here to match that information. Okay, so hopefully that helped you with having those answers. Please go back if you need to again look at those. So we already went over how to calculate gross pay with these examples, and now it's asking us to do it ourselves here on page 4. So as you can see, I've written out a few notes for you because it does kind of come off confusing, and actually it kind of leaves out some information that I wanted to give to you here. So you're going to have to take a few notes. So what I recommend first doing is writing out what I've written out for each question. So here it tells the pay rate of $14.20. They worked regular hours of 40, but they did work overtime of 9 hours. So I went ahead and calculated this overtime pay. Y'all don't have to do that. I don't expect you to do that. What I did it for each one. I calculated the overtime hours and the rate. Sorry, I messed up on that one. That's $15.27. So I put that down there. Feel free to write that in if you'd like to write that in, what I've done with the overtime hours and with the rate, but you don't have to. What I want you to write is this right here so you can see how you're going to calculate this. So first we're going to calculate our regular hours separately and our overtime hours separately, okay? So how do you find your gross pay? That's your pay before the taxes are taken out. You take your pay rate and your regular hours worked and you multiply them. So this is where those calculators are going to come in handy. So go ahead and type in your calculator. I already have your pay rate here on this first one. $14.20 times 40 hours. Get your answer here and write that there. And then you're going to calculate the overtime by that pay rate of $12. I'm sorry, 21. I'm looking at it backwards. $21.30 times 9. Put that answer right here. Okay, so multiply both of those. Put those answers here. And then once you have those answers here that you multiplied on your calculator, I want you to add. We're going to add both of those amounts of money to get the gross pay that's on that paycheck before those taxes are taken out. So what you're going to do, once you have your answer here and your answer here, you're going to add them to get your total. So again, use those calculators. Tips here, don't forget those decimals. They need to be in the right spot when you're doing that on your calculator. We've worked on that, but it's really important that you have those decimals there, especially when you're adding two. All right, let's move on to the next one so I can show you guys how to do this one too. So regular, we're going to calculate that separately, and then overtime. So regular, this person's getting paid $10.18 an hour, and we're going to multiply that by 40 hours that they worked regular. But this person worked some overtime too. They worked overtime 5 hours. So we're going to multiply that pay rate, which was $15.27. Sorry, I messed up there. But it's $15.27. And you're going to multiply that by 5 and get your answer here. Once you've multiplied both of these and have your answers written, then I want you to add both of these amounts. So add those together to get your total right here. Alrighty. Moving on to number 3 here. In our next problem, we have a person's regular and their overtime. Each of these have overtime with hourly. So that's fun. Okay, so regular is, sorry, my screen went blank. All right, regular, this person got paid $9.58 per hour. They worked 40 regular hours. So you're going to take 9.58 multiply 40 in your calculator and get your answer. And then this person also worked overtime. Their pay rate of overtime is $14.37 times the amount of hours, so 8. So you can multiply those two to get your answer here. And once you have your answers for both of these, you're going to add them together to get your total pay. Sorry, I know this feels like a math lesson today. I think about those of you who love your math, and then I feel bad for those who I know who don't. So thanks for bearing with me, guys. Trying to make it as easy as possible. So just write it down in your notes as I've written it here. I think, again, that's just easiest for us. So pause the screen if you need. And here's our final one with regular and overtime. So this person's regular pay is $8.45 times 40. And their overtime is $12 and how is that, 68 cents? Yeah, 68 cents. Sorry. Even my own handwriting's hard to read. So $12.68, and they worked 11 hours in overtime. Woo-wee. It's going to be a good paycheck. So go ahead and multiply those two, their regular and their overtime. And then you're going to add both of these numbers together to get your total answer. So I'll hold that in front of the screen again because I think it would just be super easy for you guys to pause me right now if you're still kind of behind and write down all this information, copy from me, and then use your calculator to get those answers in these blanks I've put. Okay? All right, so though most of you are going to have an hourly paycheck like this with a pay rate in hours, we also do just the booklet does want to just touch on salaries. So this is actually easier to calculate. But let's say you're making the same amount a year like Miss Carr makes. So let's say I make $26,506 a year. Well, I needed to see how much I get monthly on that each month. So we're going to divide that by 12 because that's 12 months in a year. So this is a comma, not a decimal, so don't put a decimal in there. That's just a comma when it gets into the thousands, place value. So in your calculator, you can just type in 26506 divided by 12. Get that answer. Our last one here, number 6, is calculating gross pay with a semi-monthly rate. So this is how I get paid. This is how your Charleston County teachers get paid. We're on salary, but we get paid twice a month. TMI, right? But just trying to give you an example. So let's say I make $32,000 a year, but I get paid not once a month, but I get paid twice a month. So I would divide that by 24. So type in your calculators, and that's a comma again, not a decimal. Type in 32000 divided by 24, and you'll get your answer for each paycheck. I wish I was with you guys to help you through that, because I know that got a little confusing. So please rewind, go back, call me too if you have any questions, and I'll lead you through that, okay? But you guys are doing great. We're going to move on to paycheck deductions. We're going to read some more, and then we're going to answer questions again, okay? So I know for a fact you guys aren't able to do all this as I'm talking, so please pause and rewind if you need, which I'm assuming you do. So please do that. Okay, paycheck deductions. So many young adult workers are unpleasantly surprised and sometimes angered by their first paycheck. The amount of the check is often much less than expected due to taxes and other deductions. Deductions are amount of money subtracted from the worker's gross pay. So we just talked about gross pay and we just calculated that. But the fact is that you're going to get paid a certain amount per hour and you're going to work an amount of hours. But you're not going to get paid that amount that we just figured out. There's taxes and other things that come out of our paychecks, and that's what we're talking about here. It's everybody's, not just you. Some deductions are required by law, such as federal, state, local taxes, and Fica, Social Security, and Medicare. The deductions are required for most people are generally the same, although the amounts vary depending on how much money you're making, the number of personal allowances as a dependent, those are your W-4 taxes, if you claimed yourself or not, and other reasons that even Ms. Carr doesn't understand. But we do know that these deductions do get taken out, and we're going to break these down a little bit and tell you what each one talks about. Some are required, some are not. So other deductions are voluntary and include deductions such as employee health care insurance payments, union dues, savings, retirement contributions, and charitable contributions. Optional deductions cannot be withheld without a worker's written consent. So they can't make you pay union dues, or they can't make you even do your health care insurance. If you're covered under your parents, you probably won't want to. So they'll ask you for that, and that is your option as an employee. So again here, gross pay is the amount of money a person earns before any deductions are subtracted. After all the deductions are taken out of the worker's gross pay, the amount left is called net pay. And that's that's the amount of money you actually get on your check. We've talked about that. And that's different. That's less than your gross pay because of these taxes. So, regular wages plus overtime equals gross pay, what we just calculated and added. Gross pay minus your deductions, minus your taxes, is your net pay, the actual amount of money you are going to get on your check. So last paragraph here on page 5. Each time a worker is paid, he or she should receive a detailed list of deductions on the pay stub or deposit slip if the money is directly deposited into a bank account. The pay stub lists the types of deductions and amounts withheld from a worker's gross pay. Additional information, such as the number of sick days and vacation days, may also be listed. Workers should carefully examine pay stubs for accuracy and keep them to compare to the W-2 tax forms that the employers must provide you when it comes to that income tax time. So moving on here to page 6, reading here. The following deductions are required by law to be taken out from the worker's gross paychecks. So the first one here is federal income taxes are paid by nearly all people who work in the United States. Federal taxes provide many goods and services such as national defense, education, law enforcement, highways, and healthcare. The percentage amount of taxes each worker pays in federal income taxes is based on the amount of his or her earnings. So it depends. However much you earn is how much is going to be taken out. The more you earn, the more will be taken out. the less you earn, the less will be taken out of those federal taxes. So federal taxes are everyone in our country, the United States. You pay those, then you also pay state taxes. So for us, that would be South Carolina, state taxes. So state income taxes are paid by residents, people who live in those states. A worker is a resident of the state where his or her main home is located. Each state has specific and sometimes different rules, and the percentage paid by employees can be very difficult, but it is based on the amount of the worker's earnings. So again, the more you make, the more you pay, the less you make, the less you pay, just like the federal. So some states, including Florida, Texas, and several others, have no state income tax at all. State taxes are used to pay for education, public safety, healthcare, transportation, and more. Next here, we're going to talk about FICA, F-I-C-A taxes, which are made up of two different types of taxes. So made up of Social Security and Medicare taxes. FICA stands for the Federal Insurance Contributions Act, and employers are required by law to withhold a percentage of the worker's wages for FICA taxes. Typically, workers who pay FICA taxes will receive payments and benefits in the future. The amount of FICA taxes paid into the program by a worker is used to calculate the individual's future Social Security and Medicare benefits upon retirement. So when you see FICA on a paycheck, that's money that the government is taking out of your paycheck, but it is going to be given back to you, hopefully. It's going to be given back to you when you get older and when you're eligible to retire at 65. So you still have income even after you quit working. And that's something that all people who have worked in our country should be getting with their Social Security and their Medicare. I know my grandmother, if you ever heard a grandparent talk about their Social Security check or their Medicare, I've definitely heard my grandmother talk about hers. So that is that income that you still get when you're older and not working. But again, it depends how much you paid into it. So let's talk about Social Security and Medicare real quick. Social Security is a program that gives workers individual retirement programs and helps people who are unemployed or disabled. So the Social Security rate is currently 6.2 for individual workers, with their employers responsible for also paying another 6.2. So you pay it and also your employer pays it. The official name of Social Security is Old Age Survivor and Disability Insurance. So Social Security is actually something that even some of us get as well. So it's a federal income that we get for people who aren't able to work. Another one is Medicare. Medicare is a government health insurance program covering people who are disabled or over the age of 65. Medicare provides medical, hospital, and surgical benefits. Every worker contributes 1.45% of their wages to Medicare, with their employer also contributing the same amount. Workers, retired workers, and whoever they're married to, their spouse, are eligible, so can receive these Medicare benefits once they reach the age of 65. So again, this is money that you're paying that once you stop working and are older, this is money you can use for hospital bills because we know that can get expensive. And as you become older, that might be something you're spending more money doing. So that Medicare helps out with those hospital costs and medication costs. Then lastly here, healthcare insurance is offered by most employers to employees. The insurance is optional, but typically offers workers the best healthcare value for the money. In today's society, healthcare and insurance are changing rapidly, so workers need to keep themselves informed. So probably right now, because you have a parent working or what we're working, then you were covered under their insurance. But some places offer, like the hotel at Embassy Suites, they offer insurance for you, and that is optional. So here we're going to talk about now our paycheck deductions. And I've done the same thing with highlighting the answers and numbering them to help you guys out. So here we go with our paycheck deductions. We're going to refer back to the text and answer each question completely. So number 1, how do deductions affect the amount of a paycheck? So here we go, writing my answer for number 1. No, I have it here somewhere. Did I really not do number 1? Wow. Okay. So, okay. So number 1, here, I'm going to highlight really quick. I don't know how I missed that. Sorry. Okay. So the answer for number 1 here is deductions are amounts of money subtracted from a worker's gross pay. So how they work is their money taken out. So that's your answer for number 1. You can just write that, what I've highlighted there, in for number 1. All right. Moving on to number 2. What is the difference between gross pay and net pay? So for number 2, you can just write this as your answer. Gross pay is the amount of money, right here by the number 2 I've put. Gross pay is the amount of money a person earns before any deductions. Okay? And net pay is the amount of money left. So you can just write what I've highlighted there as your answer for number 2. We'll move on to number 3. What type of information is included on a paycheck stub? So here for number 3. Paycheck stubs list the types of deductions and the amount withheld from workers. So you can just write what I've highlighted here for number 3. I also added number of sick days and vacation days may also be listed. For number 3. Question here, number 4. What is FICA and what 2 taxes make up FICA? So here we turn the page here to page 6. And here's our answer. FICA is Federal Insurance Contributions Act and is used to calculate individuals' Social Security and Medicare upon retirement. So that's your answer for number 4, right here. FICA stands for that. And then you can continue by writing this down here for your answer for number 4. Medicare and Social Security, FICA. Okay. Guys are doing great. Pause if you need to. Number 5, what deductions are required by law? So you can just list this. This doesn't have to be a complete sentence. So what deductions are required? You can just list it right here. Federal income taxes, comma, state income taxes, comma, FICA taxes, which includes Social Security, Medicare. So you're just listing these 5 that are in bold right here for number 5. Okay, pause if you need to get all that. Okay. What deductions, oh, I already got that one. Here we go. Don't go back. Always moving forward. Number 6, what type of deductions are optional? So I put here for number 6, going back to page 5. Kind of a long answer here. That's why they gave you extra lines there for this one. So number 6, find on page 5, is other deductions are voluntary and include deductions such as employee health care, insurance payments, union dues, savings deposit, retirement, and charitable contributions. So that is your answer for number 6. Ooh, this is a rough one. Sorry, guys. You guys are doing great. We're going to get to Pay Stub, which is going to be a little bit more familiar with you guys here in just a sec. Why should workers carefully check their pay stubs? Why does Ms. Carr keep teaching us about pay stubs? What is the point of that? So, here we go. Number 7, it kind of ran along here with number 3. But here with number 7, workers should carefully examine pay stubs for accuracy and keep them to compare to the W-2 tax forms the employer must provide. So you start here where you have that number 7 and copy that down as your number 7 answer. All right, we're going to keep going here in our packet. Go back if you need to pause the screen to answer any of those questions. And we're going to get into pay stubs and what's on each paycheck here. So, although paychecks and pay stubs and deposit slips may look different on the employer, the information contains mostly the same things. So, below is the paycheck with a pay stub attached. The actual check will be either above or below the pay stub. The employee will sign the back of the check and either cash it or deposit it into the bank. So you have 2 sections here. You have, that check, that money, which you take to the bank in cash. And then we have your pay stub. So I'm going to point out some few things here on your check. Here's the check amount. So you look on your check and see how much money that is. Which in this case is $286. Written out here as well. And here is the employer's name and address on where you're getting paid. So that's just basic information on your check. And this is the employee's name. So this is your information. So on a check, it'll have your information, the employer's information, and then how much they are paying you. Go to section 2, next page. Here, page 9. And there's a few more things they're wanting to they're wanting to point out to you. So, here we go. We have a pay period. This is the time period this paycheck covers. So, it's calculating the hours that you work between those dates. So, a pay period is 2 dates, a range. Has your marital status and number of exemptions on there. Number of hours worked. So how many hours you worked. This person worked 43. The employee's legal name. So your legal name here. You always want to make sure that's correct so you can deposit that check. And then here are some of the deductions that we talked about. So the federal withholding tax, state tax, taken out here. It gives you the names of these, and then you can see how much was taken out, the amount. The city and local tax, what they've taken. Fica, that Medicare and Social Security. And then your paying FICA taxes required type. Okay, so it's just talking about that FICA again there. Your city, state. FICA, and then your federal, the F. And this is, the rate is the amount, the amount this person made per hour. So your pay rate, how much you get paid per hour, right here under rate. So $8. And is that a 15? $8.15 an hour. Right here. We got one more, and then we're gonna read. We're gonna practice doing our own paycheck and pay stub. So on this one, your pay stub will also show you your gross pay. So how much money, you know, with that pay rate. Turn it around here to be a little lighter. That pay rate and hours you worked. So your gross pay. And then we talked about this YTD, that's year to date. So how much money you've made all year without taxes being taken out. So this period and then your current period and then the year to date. And then this is important because this is now your net pay. This is how much you made after the deductions. Okay. And then these amounts, these amounts represent the different types of taxes and deductions right here. Taken out. So you can see how it went from your gross pay to the net pay that you actually earn on your check. So now what we are going to do is we're going to look at page 11, and here we have an example of a check that you would get on your pay stub, and then also your pay stub with all that information broken down. So please join me here on page 11, because we're going to use that. And if it's easier for you to go ahead and rip off this last page on your worksheet, please go ahead and do that. This is more like what we've been doing in the classroom. So I don't know why it's so dark. So this is more like what we've been doing in the classroom. So I feel more confident on you guys completing this independently. I'll go ahead and read out the questions though. And again, you're answering these questions from the example here on page 11. So your first question is, whose paycheck is this? So what person is this check made out to? So look on that check. It's also on the pay stub there under name. Number 2, who is Jessica's employer? Ha, that's the answer to number 1. I love when they do that. So who is the employer? Who's giving her the paycheck? I love it's, I'll just tell you, it's right at the top on the left. Dunder Mifflin Mufflers. You guys are big fans of The Office. Okay. Number 3, what is the pay period? So remember, the pay period is 2 dates listed here. So the pay period right there from these dates. So you would list those 2 dates. Sorry, I dropped something. How many regular hours did Jessica work this pay period? So it'll tell you here with hours. Hold on, I think it's a year to date. All right, so right here with hours. Really? Sorry, it's a little confusing there because they're saying her hours are 60.87 hours and doesn't really do the overtime. So 60, that's a lot of hours. All right, number 6, what amount of federal taxes we're taking out? So now you're looking at those deductions and you're looking at the federal deductions. So Fed, you're going to look at that Fed amount and see how much was taken out right there. How much has Jessica earned in year to date overtime this pay period? So you're going to find overtime You're going to go all the way over here. Sorry. You're going to find overtime and go all the way over to year to date. There. In that amount. What is Jessica's marital status? I found it earlier. Okay. Yeah. So marital status is S. Stands for single. She is single. So you just put S for number 8. How much has Jessica paid in taxes to Cityville Local School District? So this is part of her taxes that are taken out. This paycheck. Local School District. So you're right here at the bottom with Cityville Local School District, LSD. And that's the amount she paid this paycheck, $4.15, and then she's paid $73.91 year to date. So that's number 10. I know this looks different than some of the ones we've done, but like I said, all pay stubs can be and look different there. All right, so how much money is Jessica paid per hour? So find her rate of pay per hour, $9.10. And then number 12, what is her net earnings? So you can look and see here what she got paid on her check. Or right here, I know it's kind of cut off on the page, my copy's cut off there, but that should say net. That's $440.22. Alrighty, well, that is our lesson for today. Those of you who enjoy your math, you're welcome. Those of you who do not enjoy math, and that was really hard and frustrated, take a break. You don't have to finish it all in one session. Pause, and please reach out to me with any questions that you have, okay? I don't want this lesson to frustrate you in any way, shape, or form. So please reach out to me if you need any help, and take breaks. Otherwise, I hope you guys are staying safe and healthy. Remember to help out around the house with those employability skills, and I will see you guys again for our next day's lesson. Have a great day.